Well, good evening. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Lovely to have you with us tonight. I don't know what you've been up to today. It's been a beautiful day, hasn't it? Absolutely gorgeous. I went out into the park and I had Patrick Bryan shoot past me at an amazing speed. He clearly hasn't been on the cashews and cream sodas. He looked very trim and very fast. I wonder what you've been doing. How do you exercise? Be very interested to know. We need to talk about keeping fit because we've got a bunch of medics with us tonight, and I'm going to introduce you to them shortly. But first, just a couple of things to say. The first is that Sapphires, a Leicester-based charity that works with women in the sex industry, has just been saying thank you very much indeed. I know a number of people have been giving to their appeal. They wanted to just make up some packages. And those packages have now gone to women in hostels and various other places around the city. And they wanted to say thank you. And the police wanted to say thank you as well, because they've been involved in that with them. So if you've been able to give to that, thank you so much. The second thing is not from me. It's coming from Steve Borden. So I'm going to introduce Steve to you shortly. And I hope he's going to are you going to come and join us, Steve? Yeah, you are. That's terrific. Let's see if we can get this to work. That's great. Steve and Rach are sitting there. You guys have got something to invite us to over the next few days. Tell us a little bit about that, would you?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for letting us come on just to let you guys know about this. Basically, Ramadan is starting on Friday, which is 30 days of prayer that Muslims follow every year all around the world for prayer and fasting. And what we've been doing for the last couple of years, a group of us headed up by Vicky, is something called a call to prayer, which is that we've been trying to pray together as Christians every single day for our Muslim friends, specifically in Leicester. And so we're starting that on Friday. Great, I've just popped on the screen, brilliant. And yeah, so we're starting that this Friday. It's a call to prayer. And there's two ways that you can be involved if you want to join in the praying. The first is that every Friday we'll be sending an email out giving prayer points and prayer focuses for the coming week. But the second thing we want to do this year, seeing as we're all locked in our houses, is we want to meet together on Zoom every morning at 8 a.m. to just come together and focus our prayer on Muslims in this city. The prayer time will be about 30 minutes or maybe a little bit longer, and anyone's welcome to join in. Someone will be there leading the meeting every day, 8 a.m. And it's a great time just to come along, even if you've never been involved with Muslim ministries or you don't have any Muslim friends. There's loads of Muslim people across the whole of Leicester. So why don't you just choose a couple of dates or a couple of days every week and come and join in, and let's get praying for our Muslim friends over Ramadan.
Steve, thank you very much for that. That sounds great. Tell us a little bit about how things are going at North Evington Free Church.
Yeah, it's exciting at the minute. I think lockdown has been interesting for everybody, as like you have been meeting online and through kind of WhatsApp chats, and yeah, it's been really good. It's been really encouraging to stay connected. The elderly in our church have been looked after, getting CDs and DVDs and things. And so yeah, I think there's a real sense of community spirit and connection. We're obviously a little frustrated we can't do as much in the community right now, but we're still trying to create some links in and keep communication up with the people from POTS and English classes and things like that. So yeah, continue to pray for us in that.
Great. Well, Rach, you're going to stay with us because you're a medic. Steve, you can stay there. That's fine. You can be the eye candy for this one.
But I want to do off actually.
It's Rach I want to talk to. And I've got a number of other friends with me tonight. Maybe they can kind of show themselves to us. And if I do this, maybe this will work. That's great. Hopefully they're going to come online shortly.
We're here. We just can't unstop our video.
And this is the beauty of Zoom, isn't it, everybody?
It
This
says,
is how it all works.
Andy, that you have the host has stopped your video.
Okay, he's gonna ask you all to start now. That's better.
Excellent.
Good, we're all there. The team has assembled. So I'm just going to go round. First of all, thanks for joining us. If you're watching this, and there's 63 people watching us right now, feel free to ask some questions, and I'll just put it to these guys, or anything you want to say to them within reason, then I'll put it to these guys. But let's just go round. Maybe you just tell us a little bit about what you do, who you are, what you do. That would really help us. Let's start with Rach, first of all.
So I work as a GP in Blaby, just 2.5 days a week. And yeah, in a couple of weeks' time, I'll be helping out at some hot clinics as well for the coronavirus patients. But that's not started for me yet. So the clinic's up and running.
Okay. Sorry, other Rachel, I call her. Rachel Giles, tell us what you do.
Yeah, so I'm currently a junior doctor, FY2 in the hospital. I'm working in the A&E department at the Royal Infirmary.
And Esther?
I'm currently working with the respiratory physio team at the Royal with inpatient adults, just on COVID wards. So that's what I'm doing at the moment, but I'm normally based in neuro, doing physio.
Paul?
So I'm a GP and I work in Wixton.
Okay, and last but not least, Karen.
And I'm a physio as well, so it's like Esther, but I work in children's. So I do any child 0 to 18 in the Royal.
So I'll put it now on kind of speaker view so we can see everybody a bit more clearly. But let me just ask you, anybody chip in with this. Tell us what it's like. You know, our minds, most of us fortunately haven't been in hospital the last month, but our minds go to kind of the worst possible scenario. Karen, you were saying actually things aren't as bad as you might think.
Yeah, I think from the stories I'm hearing is things aren't as bleak as they might appear on the news. So yeah, things are hard and things are tough, but they're in certain small isolated areas, and actually the rest of the hospital is running fairly normally, if not quietly. So it's not as a terrifying place to be as you might hear from the news.
And what kind of things have you been up to? What's been going? What does a day look like for you?
So within children's, kind of do everything from intensive care, start off in intensive care in the morning and then work my way down the children in order of priority. So start in intensive care, then go to the high dependency unit, and then see any children on our wards. So we're seeing quite a lot of broken limbs from bicycle accidents and trampolining falls and things like that at the minute. And then I spend the rest of my afternoon looking after our babies who are in long-term, kind of looking at their development and trying to progress them sitting and walking and that kind of thing. So actually my days are fairly nice, and you know, I get to enjoy being around children each day.
Esther, you're also physio, but it's not been quite so nice. You just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think Karen's right that depending on where you are, you've got a really different view of what's happening. And I think that basically where I've been working, I've just been working on COVID wards. And so that's been everything from pretty chaotic to pretty, well, very sad at times as well. But I'm also working with a quite specific patient group. So we're really just needed for people that are very unstable and are requiring quite a lot of support for their breathing, but aren't going to ITU. So it's quite a specific patient group, I suppose. So that really colours your view of how things are. Some days are okay if I'm just on a normal COVID ward, and there's some people that just get coronavirus and they just need a little bit of oxygen, and then they just need that time for their body to recover on the oxygen, and then they will go home. But yeah, it can be quite varied, really.
You had a pretty rough week last week, though. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So one of the ways that we're supporting people with their breathing is CPAP. You might have seen some pictures on the news of people that haven't gone to intensive care, but they have needed a lot of support with their breathing. And so I spent a week and a bit just primarily treating that patient group. And unfortunately, all of those patients passed away. And it's not a big cohort of patients, but because I was spending a lot of time with them, that was really hard. We were supporting the ward staff and some of the different people looking after these people with training them up and making sure that they're confident and happy with the machine, basically, and how it works. So yeah, it was a really hard week last week, actually, and quite a few members of our team, we've just stayed with people if they've passed away and their family members can't get in. So that was difficult last week, definitely.
I want to just come back and talk a little bit about how you are in a minute, but Rachel Giles sitting next to you, I just, you are a hospital doctor, you get to see what's going on, but you were saying something, we were chatting a little bit earlier, and you were saying something quite interesting, actually encouraging people to come to the hospital. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so I guess as we mentioned before on the kind of medics chat, that actually A&E is very quiet at the moment to what it's usually like. We're probably seeing a third to a half of what we would usually see in a 24-hour period. And that makes for a very interesting kind of environment at the moment. And we've certainly got a lot more spare time in our hands sometimes. But not only that, we've split up the A&E department into kind of 3 main sections. We've called them blue, red and resus. So our blue zone is mainly for patients that are coming in with maybe the usual stuff that we come to A&E for. So you don't have cough or cold symptoms, so you're away from that section. And then we've got our red area where anyone that's coming in with a fever, cough or cold gets assessed in a separate area. And then we've also got our resus area where if you're very unwell and needing a bit more intensive support and possibly escalation plans, we've also got that area as well. So I've been moving through all 3, and yeah, very varied depending on each. Fluctuates how many patients we get in, but yeah, at the moment we're seeing a lot of people come in very sick, that maybe have been hanging on to the very end. So if it's any encouragement, and you do need to come to A&E, please come in. We'd love to come to you. Yeah, I didn't think we'd ever say that.
I'd like to second that as well. So that's exactly the same in children's. So in children's intensive care, parents aren't bringing their children in when they should do. So if your children are struggling to breathe, please bring them to hospital. Or if they have another symptom like broken arm, broken leg, whatever it is, then just get them into us. It'd be easier to see them and send them home with nothing than to not see them at all, or for them to come in really, really sick.
Thank you. Let's go to our GPs. Paul, let me talk to you, because when all this started off, you were going actually a little bit quiet, to be honest. And then the last few weeks you're going, no, it is quite busy now. What does a day in the life of somebody like a GP look like?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. So I don't know if busy is the right word. Different, very, very different is the right word. I'm really interested to see what Rach Borden has to say about her experience as well in a minute, because I don't know if the experience of all GPs is similar. I think for us, one of the big things has been that basically there's been a different challenge each week. So to begin with, the first challenge was people saying, right, where do I come in this government plan? Am I supposed to be shielding? Am I supposed to be isolating? What am I supposed to be doing? And we were fielding a lot of questions around that kind of thing. And I think as it's gone along, the nature of the beast has changed. So now we're starting to see a lot of problems. A lot of conversations in and around, right, if I get this, what do I want? So we're talking to a lot of older patients and saying, we want to help you. We want to do what your wishes would be. Actually, if you become more poorly would you want to go into hospital, and trying to have difficult conversations like that. And those conversations are absolutely rubbish over the phone. And even on a video call is absolutely nothing compared to what it would be face to face. And so if I had one word to try and describe the work at the moment, I probably wouldn't say busy. I would probably just say inadequate in terms of it just doesn't feel like we're able to do the job that we want to do. And we've got new technology. We're doing various video calls. We're doing video rounds of care homes and just trying to do whatever we can, really. But it just doesn't feel like we're able to do the job that we want to do, which at times is quite frustrating, and more frustrating for patients, much more frustrating for patients. And yeah, and I think it's interesting as well what Esther was saying about everyone is seeing this from a very different for different angles. The likelihood is it's probably pretty unlikely that I've seen a patient with coronavirus. I suspect that's very unlikely, but we're seeing a lot of fallout from it, you know, so a lot of the other things. So obviously people don't stop having other health problems just because there's a pandemic on, and we're having to try and be a bit clever about how we help them out. But also it's dealing with people who are caught in these horrible quandaries. Do they go and visit a loved one in hospital or not? You know, not wanting to put themselves at risk, but also not wanting to miss the opportunity to see a loved one. Trying to counsel people through mental health problems on the phone. Again, it's really rubbish, and it feels like it's just not a great way to try and help things. So it's just fresh challenges all the time, and it just kind of changes every day. But it's very different.
Rach Borden, is that your experience?
Yeah, very similar, I think. I think it's been a real big challenge to move to telephone consulting when we're so used to seeing face-to-face. I think that is a real big challenge for us to have the wisdom and discernment to what do we need to bring down, what do we absolutely have to examine and what we don't. So yeah, adjusting to that and video consults is interesting. We've been really quite quiet, really. So usually in the morning, I'd see maybe like 16 patients face-to-face, do a couple of phone calls. Now it's sometimes I'll only have maybe like less than 10 phone calls to do in the morning and not even see one patient face to face. We are seeing some coronavirus patients in our surgery if we feel that they need a face-to-face assessment to decide if they need to go to hospital or not. But we're doing that in a special room all kitted up. So yeah, hats off to the people in hospital who are kitted up all the time, because I find it hard even just for the 15-minute consult or whatever we do.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah, and yeah, like Paul said, we're seeing an awful lot of increase in mental health and anxiety, depression, and just counselling a lot of people on the phone who are really fearful and worried. So you could pray for wisdom to know which patients to really pause with and spend that extra bit of time with. But yeah, it's interesting, unusual times, and yeah, almost eerily quiet. Though I would say, as coronavirus is hitting the care homes, we've started to notice that more. We serve quite an elderly population where I work, and it really is hitting the care homes around us a little bit. And I'm anticipating that to get heavier and heavier as we're doing a lot more palliative care in those care homes. So that's going to be a change for us in the next couple of weeks, I think.
Thank you. Loads of people watching, not many questions coming in. I think everybody is absolutely glued to what you guys are saying. But Janet's just asked, and I don't know who wants to answer this. Do you have the kind of protective gear that you need, the tests you need to stay safe at work? Have you all got that?
I would say very much so. I mean, certainly in the A&E department, we're constantly wearing masks in all the areas, and then we're putting on aprons and gloves for every patient that we're seeing, no matter what area we're in. And then if we're in the resuscitation area where it's more likely that we're going to be producing kind of droplets and aerosols, we've got a lot more special masks, big visors. We're completely gowned up so we look like we're going in for surgery. So if anything, I feel very well protected in those areas, and certainly don't feel nervous coming into a shift because I do feel well protected. And the organisation of the staff and the people that are on the kind of response team, certainly in A&E, have been really, really good. So they've made us feel a lot more confident and given us the training that we need to put the stuff on and off and feel safe.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think, so areas like A&E and ITU, are really well geared up for all that stuff. And then the wards do have protection as well, but I think it probably can feel a little bit less organised. And so that can be, it's not that the protection is not there, but it's just maybe that people are not using, or the team have not kind of used their reasoning around what protection they need at what time. So there's been a couple of times when I've made advice to people to say, look, with this specific patient, probably, you know, you do need to be increasing your protection. So it's there. I think it's kind of like a classic A&E and ITU are all sorted and all organised, which is good. Like, they need that. That is perfect. But then maybe the wards, it's not that it's not there at all. We do have the protection.
I don't know who this is. NESC Baptist, that's North Evington Free Church official channel asking this question. Do you think there'll be a big backlash after the pandemic of people who haven't come in with serious conditions and operations postponed? How can we pray into that?
Good question.
Yeah.
So I think already in general practice, we are obviously, one of the hard things is not knowing how long this is going to go on for, and how long services are going to be, you know, we're going to be able to offer different services for. But I think already we're thinking, well, hang on, what about all our patients who would normally, let alone the operations, what about all our patients who would normally be having blood tests? What about all the patients who we need to have know what their blood pressure is? You know, even simpler things than the operation. So right down to those routine things, all the way scaled up to people who are having, you know, knee replacements, hip replacements delayed for months and months at a time when they're in a lot of pain, routine appointments bumped on 3 months at a time. And you know, everyone's very understanding. I have to say, a lot of patients have spoken to and said, look, I'm really sorry, but we just can't sort this at the moment. And people are incredibly understanding. But there will come a point when the system will get a bit flooded afterwards. And yeah, I think we're going to need prayer for how we prioritize things, because it's going to be difficult. And I think for the hospital, realistically, when waiting lists and whatever, because of demand, are already long in some areas, they're just going to get longer and longer. And I think that's going to be very difficult for people.
Thank you. Josh Corley wants you all to know that you're amazing. Deb, Brian, big thank you for all you do. Pete Grace, huge gratitude. I think that's kind of echoed by all of us. We really are very grateful to you all. Can we just ask, how are you guys, how are your colleagues doing? What is the morale like in the GP surgeries, in the wards, any?
So in GP land, I think because we're slightly quieter, morale is almost quite good, because there's a lot of more talking to each other, so we've got a bit more time. There is fear though, there is quite a lot of fear. I think particularly in our surgery, it's the reception staff who feel very much in the front line of people coming in and still asking questions and handover of things. So yeah, there is a real spirit of fear.
Yeah, I'd second that. I think a lot of people are scared, you know, people coming into work and then going home to their families, and obviously they're worried about the potential of picking things up. One thing that we've done, which actually has been really great, is just for about 10 minutes on a Friday, we do a quiz, just 10 questions, and we just get all the staff together, and that has helped, just been like a bit of a morale booster. And somehow I've become the designated quizmaster. So, but you know, it's little things like that actually, I think, you know, looking in, you say, oh, what a waste of 10 minutes, but actually it really isn't. I think it's really valuable, because you've got to remember that everyone coming into work comes from their own background and story as well, and people are, as I said, they're scared, understandably, and it's a case of us trying to support each other as well. I think as well, the other thing to say is, I think it's, with my colleagues, it's brought up some really interesting conversations about death as well, because you would think that being in the profession we are that people have thought about death a lot, but I think people maybe haven't thought about death very much.
So let me ask another question to you all. You're all followers of Jesus Christ. What difference does that make for you, really, facing this crisis? Anybody want to chip in on that?
I think for me, it makes a difference in literally every single moment of my life at the moment. I think sometimes you kind of tick along, and especially when things are good, maybe it's not that you're not trusting or you aren't thinking about who God is to you, but maybe it's just not as pertinent. And at the moment, out like cycling into work, I'll have like worship music playing, because if I don't, I don't want to go to work and I don't want to have to be in that situation where you're caring for people that, you know, are probably not going to get better. And there is a lot of death around, like Paul was saying, but actually having the hope of someone so much bigger that is so much more loving than even the care that we could give is like minuscule in comparison. And also for me, just being led by the Holy Spirit of what to do and how to behave to people, and being able to show people care in a really scary situation. I feel like that's been really powerful, and it feels very much like it's not from myself, because especially when there's been days when it's been really, really tough and really hard, I didn't have anything else to give out of myself. And so that was only like through the strength that he'd given me, and through the peace as well, because especially if you're with somebody that's passing away, there's a sense of gravity and also fear for that person that I think is normal. And I think without knowing Jesus, that could be really overwhelming. And not to say that it's like a walk in the park or anything. It's been really hard, and I've been really grateful to be living with these guys and having people to pray with and talk through things with. But I just think I couldn't do this if I wasn't a Christian.
Thank
Or
you.
I could, but I'd just be overwhelmed with like fear and so sad.
Anyone else?
I think for me, I'm trying to bring God's kind of joy, peace, love into what is a very fearful, scared situation, and where people, it's much easier to talk negatively than it is to talk positively. So amongst staff, wards, teams, it's very easy to be like, this is rubbish, this patient's in this horrible situation, like this virus is awful, everyone's scared, everyone feels sad. Whereas actually being able to be a positive influence in that environment and say, yeah, but the sun's shining and we've got a good team around us, let's support one another. On each ward I go onto, I try and do something silly to make people laugh, to make people smile, just to try and encourage people. It's okay to have fun, to to have a joke, to kind of let off those other emotions that are going on as well. It doesn't all have to be death and gloom. So I'm kind of enjoying trying to bring that everywhere I go in each place.
Thank you. GPs?
I'm just constantly struck as I read the Gospels of what an amazing example Jesus is for just showing amazing compassion, just having endless love. And I think for me, that's just been a beautiful driver for how to interact with people that are particularly so fearful and scared and worried at this time. And just that amazing knowledge that God is completely perfectly in control of this. For me to not have that perspective that God is perfectly in charge, would be really difficult.
And I think as well, I'll just echo what Rachel said, the word earlier, wisdom. I think we've got difficult decisions that are made harder because we're not face to face with people. And I think if people could pray for one thing, I think it'd be wisdom. compassion, like Rach just said as well, but wisdom, you know, and how we can best help people and love people.
The wonderful Janet Yakubu is asking, how can we pray for you? Are there any other things we can pray for you guys?
I guess at the moment for me, I've been having a lot of difficult conversations with some patients about kind of how far we're going to treat. So I just, prayer for compassion and a way to make the words right, that it, you know, doesn't make it sound like we're not doing anything to help them, but just trying to find the right words to say. So probably for those difficult conversations that I've been having kind of in the more resuscitation areas, certainly value prayers for that would be really helpful.
Great. Anyone else?
I think prayer for resilience would be good. So I had a really rubbish Good Friday. We lost 4 patients in a day. And in children, that's really hard. And so just prayer that we will be, rely on God's strength in those times. And be able to, have bounce ability to be able to bounce back in children who can't stay down for long. Just to be able to, and to be able to help colleagues with that as well.
Yeah, I think that's a big one just for our teams and the people we're working with, that we get to share some of the piece that we know with them. And hopefully that filters to patients as well, because they're scared, like people have been saying. So just bringing peace into the situation. And I bet people already are, but just pray for people's families that aren't able to come into hospital, and see the people that they love when they would do. And if you know people who are in that situation, I think maybe don't underestimate how difficult that could be, because it's just natural, isn't it? Like your loved one's in hospital, even if it's just for something little, and you'd be going in. So, yeah.
Wisdom for our government as well. There are still lots of logistical nightmares around. Somebody mentioned earlier, like testing. Like they're not testing like children enough, key workers, and then somebody has to take 2 weeks of work. There's so many logistical things that are a nightmare at the minute, and still shortage of PPE in the community and things like that as well. So there's those bigger things that are really needed to push forwards and have success as well.
Rachel, can I just ask you, because I mean, some of us will have heard kind of horrendous, sorry, this is Rachel Giles, some of us will have heard horrendous kind of stories about people dying on their own. What is the situation in the Leicester hospitals?
So if we're finding that people are deteriorating, that we're not really able to do much more for them, we're palliating them, we are usually allowing relatives or one relative in to our areas. We usually move them to a certain ward or a certain area of our emergency department where they're able to come and visit them. And so people are usually not dying alone, but it depends on how far away their family are as well. Because say, for example, they've come in from a care home or their family lives quite far away, they're maybe not usually able to make it in time or that sort of thing. So I think it can happen, but at the same time, if we are noticing a deterioration, we're trying to get someone in to visit and letting people know early as well.
Thank you. There's a lot of love for you here. I think this is Steve Borden, actually, North Evington Baptist. Good work, medics, your heroes. Wendy King, thank you for all you're doing on the front line. Richard Farrer, thank you so much for all you're doing. I just echo that on behalf of us all. We really are very grateful. And I'd love to pray for you. May I do that now? Let's just pray for you and for other medics as well. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much that your Son is the Good Shepherd, and he has come to bring life and life to the full. And so my friends who are following him, it's just very natural that they want to be about life, about bringing hope. And I pray that you'd help them to do that. I pray that they would just be great colleagues to have and to know. I pray that you give them that wisdom in every situation, some difficult choices they're having to make, some hard conversations. Give them compassion Help them not to grow hard and cold, but to be compassionate and kind to all those they come across, even in their busyness and stress. Give them resilience on days when it's just dreadful and hard. And Father, we want to pray for a government, for all those who are leading the NHS, that you would help them just with the logistics, that they would get the equipment out to the medics, and also that they get the testing sorted. Help them with that, please. So help my friends, help their lovely faith in you just to shine out, and make them a real source of encouragement to all they come in contact with this week, please. Amen.
Amen.
Guys, thanks so much for joining me. Really, really grateful. And just want to say to everybody else, we're going to be back on Friday at 7:30, and we're going to be joined, well, we're not going to be joined by, Michael Otts has recorded for us just a little piece about how, if there's a coronavirus, can there be a loving God? And we're going to think about that. And then I'm trying to get a question panel together, a live question panel afterwards, so you can ask them all the difficult questions, and I can just sit there and ask the questions. That's the plan. Anyway, thanks for joining us. Thanks, guys, here, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks.